Hey y'all, it's Garth, the Big 615. You're going to hear the newest that country music has to offer. At the same time, you're going to hear the newest that the country classics have to offer. I want to hear the new single from George Strait, and I want to hear it right beside the new single from Luke Combs. That's the thing we call the Big 615.
Download the free TuneIn app from the App Store. That's TuneIn. Or ask your device to play the Big 615 on TuneIn.
Whether you're doing a dance to your favorite artist in the office parking lot or being guided into Warrior One in the break room before your shift, whether you're running on your Peloton tread at your mom's house while she watches the baby, or counting your breaths on the subway.
Inhaling and long exhale.
Peloton is for all of us, wherever we are, whenever we need it. Download the free Peloton app today. Peloton app available through free tier or paid subscription starting at $12.99 per month.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2. Glad to be with you today here on Sports Daily. Always a lot of fun. We are at an interesting point in the season, in the year, to get things going. Let's talk a little football, Tommy. NFL, we're on the, we're coming up on training camp season, all of these things. We're through the draft. We're through mini camps. Let's take a little stock report here on where we think things may fall. Where do we think things may fall, Tommy? What about who's got a chance to win a Super Bowl here? We know that Kansas City and Cincinnati and Buffalo and Philadelphia and San Francisco, I think, would be at the top of the list, right? Am I missing any obvious choices? I think those would be the 5 that most people would put right at the top of their lists of teams who could win a Super Bowl this year. Is that a fair top 5?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that you could make an argument for maybe 1 or 2 other teams to potentially jump in there, but I'm fairly comfortable with those 5.
Okay, so then let's expand it. And I think there are, a more generally thought of next group. I think Baltimore would be in that group. I think the Chargers would be in that group. Maybe people are still willing to put Dallas in that group. That's probably it, right? Miami, perhaps, if everything goes well for them health-wise. It's not a massive...
I would put Miami in that group. I'd put Jacksonville in that group, too. I think that we're going to see them take another step forward this season, too.
I suppose. They're sort of on that next line for me. But, you could make a case. I'd be fine with putting Jacksonville in, and I think most people would. So those are the teams that seem like, and I purposefully don't have Minnesota in there yet, and they're not even the favorite to win their division. Detroit is. That's why. So then let's expand it. Now we've gotten through the teams I think most people would agree on, right? So the question becomes, who else is there, right? Who else is left on teams that aren't as obvious? You know who we forgot about? The Jets. The Jets would obviously be in there too, I think, with Aaron Rodgers. I think most people would give them a legitimate chance. So now we're left with a group that includes New England, and I'm just looking at last year's standard. This is no particular order. New England, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Houston, Denver, Vegas, Giants, Commanders, Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, Tampa, Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta, Seattle, Rams, Cardinals. Okay, so that's the remainder. How many of those teams do we think might actually have a legitimate chance at a Super Bowl?
Maybe like 1 or 2 of them, I think. I think you're going to see a step up from a couple of those teams. Like, I would be shocked if the Rams finish 5-12 again. With Sean McVay and all of that.
Well, let's. I mean, Matt Stafford, we have to assume now will be healthy, right?
You would think, yeah. I just have a hard time believing that with the way that entire team is built. I mean, I think last year was an anomaly for them to finish 5-12. I don't think they'll finish 5-12 again. Does that mean I think they've got a chance to win a Super Bowl? No, I don't think so.
See, I do think they do. I would say yes to the Rams, because if Stafford comes back healthy and they get Cooper Kupp back, I still do think they have enough talent around that you could make a case in a winnable conference. I think what we're gonna see is more teams in the NFC on our list here than we will the AFC. But I would give the Rams a puncher's chance, I think.
I have a hard time with that because while I do think that they will be improved from last season and probably finish with a winning record, I think that they can absolutely compete for a wild card spot. I'm not sure that their current makeup, I would feel confident about them returning to the Super Bowl. Of course, they're the champions from 2 years ago, and we know that Matt Stafford can get it done. I don't know. I think I'm not ready to say that I think that they can compete for that, but I do think they'll be improved.
Okay. Seattle's great story last year. I don't think anybody's given them a chance, are they? I'm not. Arizona,
I think they're a playoff team. I think they can
not.
be a playoff team, but I'm not sure that.
But
I'm
win
gonna
a
go
Super
that
Bowl.
far.
Yeah, no, win a Super Bowl is this conversation. I think anybody can be a playoff team in the NFL from year to year, but win a Super Bowl. Sorry, no, Seattle. It was a great story last year. Arizona, absolutely not. Let's go to the NFC South, which is wide open. Any of those teams, or which of those teams you think could sneak through? I suppose New Orleans has to be the
New
one
Orleans. That's going to be that's going to be my thought.
But I do think the upside for them in an NFC could be that high. I mean, you're banking on literally everything going right? Like, it's not likely. Carolina, you would have to have like Justin Herbert type rookie year out of Bryce Young. I don't think that's in the tank, so I can't do it. Although I think some of the rest of their roster is good. Same with Tampa. Like, you would bank it on Baker Mayfield on a decent roster. I don't think you can do that. And Atlanta is one of the more wide open, interesting teams to me in football this year. But no, not with Desmond Ridder at quarterback. And anybody missing anything in the South?
No, I think it's got to be probably New Orleans gets the nod to be the team that will represent the division in the playoffs. But I think that any of those teams making the playoffs, you're probably going to have an early playoff exit.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go. Let's see. Let's go now to the. Let's go to the North, because the North is the most interesting to me. Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago. Green Bay and Chicago are no's. Detroit and Minnesota, though. This is interesting. This got brought up on the national show this weekend because I was talking to Reggie Wilson, who people might remember from here a long time ago. He's now in Minneapolis. And I kind of asked him, like, am I crazy? Detroit's the favorite to win the division, but I'm taking Minnesota still, like 10 times out of 10. Is Detroit going to make up 4 games on Minnesota this year? I don't think that they are.
I don't see it. And I've always been bullish on Minnesota. I mean, going back to last year. And, they've got flaws. There's no doubt about it. And, I think one of their biggest flaws is, just their over-reliance on Kirk Cousins. And I think that there's this thought that he's going to be the quarterback that's going to win them a championship. And I just don't think that's going to happen. That being said, if we're only looking at the division, I don't see Detroit being able to make up that ground. I think it's a fairly easy pick for me to say that Minnesota is going to repeat.
Yeah, I don't. But then, okay, so the question becomes: are either of those teams capable of winning a Super Bowl? Of winning a Super Bowl. I think Minnesota can. I think Minnesota is, because I think they can get there, and anytime you can get there, you got a chance. I mean, we've seen Jared Goff take a team to a Super Bowl. I'm trying to think of Detroit. Detroit's defense was so dadgum bad last year. Like, is their defense going to take that much of a step? They're going to be an interesting litmus test this year, because they're going to run the crap out of the ball. They lost Jamison Williams and the gambling thing for like 6 weeks. I don't think in a perfect world I could see it. No. Minnesota in a perfect world I could see it, right? Because they get Flores in there as a defensive coordinator. I think that can make enough of it. And they're philosophically, remember they drafted Jordan Addison. So now we know, and they're not retaining Dalvin Cook. They're going to sling the ball this year. Kirk Cousins is capable of that, right? Like if you said Kirk Cousins is going to throw it 50 times a year, like 50 times a game, okay. Like all right. I know his deficiencies too, but in that kind of offense, when they've gone out and they've added some pieces and they made their big tight end move and trade last year, and they've got Justin Jefferson and they drafted Jordan Addison. I think in a world where Jordan Addison has the kind of rookie impact we've seen from some receivers in recent years, and Flores gets the best out of their defense, yeah, okay. I could see it for Minnesota. I'm going to give them a puncher's chance in the NFC because I think it's a winnable conference. Okay, so Philadelphia and Dallas we have as probablys. I didn't put the Giants in there, Tommy, because I think last year was like a best-case scenario for the Giants. I don't think so, and I don't think so with Washington either.
Yeah, I think that the Giants were a really nice story last year, and I don't think that they're a bad team. I just think that their ceiling, they probably reached it already. And so with the current makeup of that team, I like Brian Dable, and I like the culture that he brought to that franchise last season. I think Daniel Jones will only get you so far, and I think that you can ride on the back of Saquon Barkley, assuming that he's healthy this season and is able to play the entire year. They finished over 500, but I think that that's about the ceiling with the way that team is made up.
Yeah, no, I'm out on them. All right, let's go to the AFC. Jacksonville, I wanted to talk about. So let's hit on that because you have them in. I think I do too. Calvin Ridley's effect there is good. They're in a winnable division. And if Trevor Lawrence takes the next step as a quarterback, yeah, look, Jacksonville could make the same kind of jump Cincinnati made a couple of years ago. I don't think that's out of the question at all. Trevor Lawrence had for a number one pick, I feel like he's had low expectations his first couple of years in the NFL. He's got the load is much larger for Trevor Lawrence this year because now everybody does have expectations for the Jaguars, don't you think? Like now everybody this is an interesting year for Trevor Lawrence.
Well, think about how terrible the Jaguars were with Urban Meyer and just the night and day difference, and not just the team as a whole, but even Trevor Lawrence and his development going from Urban Meyer to now Doug Peterson. They go from what were they like 2-15. 2 years ago, and they finished with a winning record last year. So you would think that progression should continue. So 9-8 this last year, I think they can win 10 plus games in a division that is not good. I think that they would be the team that I would pick to repeat as the AFC South division champion. Because Tennessee, you've moved away from Derrick Henry, and you're riding on Ryan Tannehill. Indianapolis, you've got a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson. And the Texans, who knows what's going to happen with C.J. Stroud? And they're stacking up, they're rebuilding. But I think it's the Jaguars' division to lose. I think they can win 10 plus games this season. And I would love to see, and I think it will happen, that development of Trevor Lawrence continuing year 2 in the Doug Peterson system.
Okay, so let's talk about Indianapolis because they're probably one that interests me more than the general public. I do think their roster is still pretty good. I think last year went totally haywire on them, and I just wonder with, Jonathan Taylor gets back healthy, if Anthony Richardson gives us his best year possible, and it's not, I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be as a passer, but if it's just as like a playmaker, because we know they could win that division, right? I think that it's totally within the realm that Richardson plays well. They have a new coaching staff in place. Things go well. They win the division. That's not crazy. What becomes the question to me is if that happens, could they be and could he be so unique that they could and let's be real, like if they do it, it's going to be like Jonathan Taylor's good. They have some decent receivers there, and they've had at times a decent defense. could they be like a total wild card dark horse? Maybe. They're one of the more interesting teams for this conversation for me.
Yeah, no,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so because we have no idea how Anthony Richardson is going to translate.
No, I know
to the
that,
NFL,
but what I'm
right?
saying is, like, what if Richardson is great? Like, what if he's so uniquely talented that he gives defenses fits in this first year? What if that happens? Because I know that's not likely or anything, but if it does, is that enough? I guess becomes the question.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, they've got Jonathan Taylor, but think about in years past when they've had, guys like Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz. They still had Jonathan Taylor, and they were bad. So I think that Taylor is a nice piece. I mean, obviously he's been one of the best running backs in the NFL over the last couple of years, but he's been a really good running back on a really bad team. I have a hard time thinking that even if Anthony Richardson comes in and is great, that's going to be enough to get them over the hump and make them a contender. Again, that division is pretty weak. So I think really your only competition is Jacksonville.
Totally.
But I'm not willing yet to say I think that they'll be there.
Okay. I'm out on them too. Like, I mean, the reality is we can say no. Cincinnati and Baltimore, yes and yes. Here's this AFC North is pretty interesting. Because let's skip them for a second and go to the East. New England, no chance, right? 0 to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go then to the AFC North. Pittsburgh and Cleveland are pretty dadgum interesting. If Kenny Pickett develops, there's a lot of buzz around Kenny Pickett right now. So if Kenny Pickett develops and Tomlin's there, I think you always got to give Pittsburgh an outside chance, don't you? I mean, it's all on Pickett, but they've got some talented players in Pittsburgh. So I suppose yes on one, like kind of like New Orleans, like maybe the lowest possible, but just slightly 1% kind of possible. And then Cleveland. Look, Cleveland keeps adding all this talent everywhere on the roster. It all just sort of becomes about Deshaun Watson. And I think now is the year we get the real evaluation of Deshaun Watson. But because the possibility has to exist that he returns to his Houston days, I think you have to give him a chance. I don't like it very much.
Not going to work.
I don't think it's going to work either. But, okay, so let me just – but if Deshaun Watson returned to the level he was at in Houston, they'd have a chance, right? Like in that scenario. So if you're saying a player just needs to be what a player has been before, I think for that reason – you got to say, okay, fine. I suppose it's possible.
I don't know.
They've added a lot of talent to that roster. Okay.
I think we're all going to look back. I don't know how long from now.
I agree.
Maybe a year, maybe 5 years.
I agree with what you're about to say.
Look back and say that was a monumentally stupid decision.
One
to
of the
pay
worst we've
Deshaun
ever
Watson
seen. I agree.
That kind of money with his baggage, with his history, and just the fact that he didn't play the game for so long. I mean, I know it was a small sample size when he came back last season for the Browns, but it was abysmal. Like, it was bad. And I'm not sure that I've seen anything that would tell me that this season is going to be any better. Maybe he's put the work in during the offseason and he'll look better than he did the few games he played last year for the Browns. But I think, again, we're going to look back and we're going to say that was a terrible decision by the Browns organization to bring him in and pay him the kind of money that they're willing to pay him in guaranteed money.
I don't disagree, and I've said that from the very beginning, right? Like, I'm just trying to, if it goes well, and again, I don't think it will either. I've said that from the beginning. I thought this was a terrible decision, all of those things. But if it did, and we're not talking about a player that's never been good, like all of a sudden being good. Like if Deshaun Watson is only what he has, if he only returns to what he was in Houston, would that be enough for Cleveland if that happened to make it through?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Nick Chubb has been effective as their running back over the last couple of years, when he's been healthy. But that's basically the only piece they have.
I'm
not. I mean, that's the premier piece, right? Like
they've
that's
got
the
Amari
one that,
Cooper. They traded for Elijah Moore. They've got some good tight ends. They have some weapons. They have Myles Garrett, who's one of the better players. They added Zadarius Smith.
I'm talking about offensively. I'm talking about offensively.
They've got Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore.
Okay, cool. Doesn't
That's
really
a
move
great
the
wide
needle
receiver
for me.
room. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is their 3 as a deep threat. They've got a good wide receiver room, and their line's been good for years.
I just don't think that it's enough to overcome if Deshaun Watson continues to regress the way that we saw him.
That's not what I'm saying.
Season,
I'm not
right?
saying if he continues to regress. That's not what I mean. Because I don't think he's going to return either. I'm saying if he returned to his Houston level, if Deshaun Watson played at that level, would they have enough? That becomes, to me, the only way you can. Because I don't think he's going to either. Yeah. But if it happened, would it, even in that scenario, would it be enough?
That division is so tough.
That conference is so tough.
Well, I know, but you've got to get through the division first. You've got to. I guess you could get in as a wild card, but man, like you're up against Cincinnati. You're up.
So
against
this
Baltimore.
conversation really becomes like that. It gets easier to make cases for teams in the NFC, but when you're talking about the AFC, it's basically, can anybody be better than Kansas City, Cleveland, or Buffalo? Right? Like that's
Cincinnati.
what it comes. What did I say? Cleveland, Cincinnati, yeah.
Yep.
Kansas City, Cincinnati, or Buffalo. And that's where it gets like for the AFC, and we want to put Jacksonville up there. I just don't know. Like the Jets probably, I think, would be the only other one. I mean, maybe Jacksonville, but even that seems like a stretch. What about the Chargers? Because we're obviously not going to take the Raiders or the Broncos here. But what about the Chargers? Can the Chargers enter the chat room of this? I think you have to put them in the mix, right? Like,
I suppose you can.
Everybody, and I know you're going to be a little jaded because they burned you so bad
I'm just saying
year.
Every year, everybody picks the Chargers. Like, that's just the way that it is.
Their roster's really good.
Right? And they always perennially underperform. And I finally took the plunge last year, and I picked them to win the division. As much as I'm a Chiefs fan and love Kansas City, I was like, man, like I'm finally going to take the bait and pick and they burn me. They burn everybody every single year. So, sure, I guess they've got a puncher's chance to make it happen, but what would tell you that they're not going to choke like they've done every single year for God knows how many years?
That Justin Herbert is good. I mean, it takes the next step.
He was there last year and they choked.
I know. He's got to continue his development, and they just finally put it over the edge. But again, is it going to be enough to be better than all three of Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo in whatever order those three teams finish? Because I do think you can make it, you don't have to try that hard to make a case for any of those three teams. I'd say yes, I guess. I suppose put them in the let's put them in the NFC. Would they be the favorite?
If they were in a different conference,
outside of Philadelphia? Sure. Philadelphia is probably a heavier favorite than I'm willing to give them credit for because I hate them as a fan. But they're probably the heaviest favorite to reach the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll look at BetMGM and see just to reach. I don't know if just to reach the Super Bowl, like to win the conference, is there yet. I'll pull that up because if I'm of all the favorites to win the conference, to me, I think that Philadelphia's got to be the favorite, right?
Oh, for sure. They got to be. Yeah.
Because Kansas City's got to get through Cincinnati and Buffalo.
Yeah. Them, San Francisco, that's probably it in the NFC.
Right. So their path seems easier. And I'm trying to, it's to win the conference, to reach the Super Bowl, just to reach it. They feel like they've got to be the heaviest favorite to reach it because of who they would potentially have to get through. Here's the list. Okay, so I found it. I finally found it. I'm on BetMGM right now. So the Chiefs are plus 350 to win the AFC. wouldn't you know it, the Eagles are plus 260. So they are. There's a better chance, according to Vegas right now, that the Eagles win the NFC than the Chiefs win the AFC. However, to win the Super Bowl, right, the Chiefs are better, are shorter odds, are the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl, slightly ahead of the Eagles, but not the conference. That's what's really interesting this year about the NFL. It's because of we sort of saw this in the NBA Finals, if you remember it, like with Boston, I think it was. Like, you have a better chance to get there, but a worse chance to win it once you do. It's kind of interesting. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Chris says, what about Miami, assuming Tua stays healthy to win a Super Bowl? I ain't taking Miami over those teams we talked about. They got a chance, but no, I'm not going to pick. I don't, even if Tua's healthy, I don't think they're better than any of those teams. We'll come back. We'll continue the conversation. It's Sports Daily on a Tuesday. Albrecht and Castor coming right back at you. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Right before Chris brought up Miami, I don't. Even in a perfect year, Tommy, I don't think Miami's going to have enough. I just don't see Tua as the guy that's going to lead this team through that gauntlet of those top three, and probably we need to make Baltimore a fourth with Lamar Jackson healthy. I don't think so.
Is that really just on the shoulders of Tua? I mean, or do you think they don't have the other pieces around him to make a run, or is it simply on Tua?
It's on Tua for me. I like the rest of their roster. I mean, I think the rest of their roster is talented enough. I think it's a Tua thing for me. Even if he came back healthy,
I think that he's got the upside to lead them to success if he can be healthy, right? That's the biggest question. Like, I just don't know, and I until we know the level of health that he's playing at. I mean, I think that there was a thought at one point last season that he should probably just retire. So I'm not ready to commit to them until I know how healthy he is. If he is healthy 100% and can play at the top of his game, I don't think there's a reason why they can't compete in that division. I think that they've got the skill position players to compete with Buffalo and with the Jets. So I'm not ready to count them out yet, but I want to see how Tua is before I make that determination.
I don't think, because I'm trying to even, like, is Tua's best enough? I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
I don't
think it's good enough.
I think it is. I think with, if there was a different, think of the guys that he has to catch the football, right? I mean, they've got, Tyreek and Waddle and, all of that. If he just had a couple of scrub wide receivers, it'd be different. But I think the way that offense is built to complement him, sure, if he's healthy, I think they absolutely can compete.
Okay, so let's get to another comment here. Jason says, I feel like it's a make or break year for Buffalo. If they fail again with this team, I see some major changes coming to that franchise. They have the most pressure on them. Do they have the most pressure? I mean, I think Cincinnati probably has equal pressure, don't you, Tommy? I mean, Buffalo hasn't gotten to the Super Bowl yet, but I think it would be equal pressure with Cincinnati.
I don't think it's equal. I think Buffalo has more. I think Buffalo has more pressure than Cincinnati does because the Bengals are more recently at the top, right? Buffalo's been there for a couple of years longer than Cincinnati has, and Buffalo has been unable to break through. They haven't made a Super Bowl, and they've got the roster to do that, right? If it wasn't for Kansas City in the way, and now Cincinnati, before, Buffalo had really one team to try to break through in Kansas City. Now they've got Cincinnati to deal with too. So I think the pressure absolutely is more on Buffalo than it would be on basically any other team in that conference.
Let me rephrase it, because I hear this sentiment a lot, and we're going to take a break and get Kevin Jinks of the Wichita Sports Commission is going to join us to talk about their banquet coming up in just a few minutes. But just real quick on this, because I think this sentiment's there for Buffalo. I don't think it's quite fair. If Buffalo doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, no, I don't think they need to blow it up. Right? That's the pressure I'm talking about. Like, yeah, I think they feel the internal pressure for sure as much as anybody. But, like, nobody's saying if Cincinnati can't get over that edge and win the Super Bowl this year, it's time to blow it up, right? I don't think it's time to blow it up if it doesn't work for Buffalo. I think you continue to try and tweak it as best you can to try and get over that hump. Blow it up. What is blow it up? Major changes. And he didn't, to be fair, Jason didn't say blow it up. He said major changes. I think that's a terrible idea.
They've made already some major changes to that defense. You know, they've moved out a couple of players defensively and brought in, some other ones. I mean, the whole purpose, keep in mind, remember when they brought in Von Miller, the whole purpose of them bringing in a guy like Von Miller was to take down Kansas City. And that hasn't happened yet. So
he got hurt. Yeah.
Right. So that hasn't happened yet. So I would imagine, I don't know about the word major, like the word major is subjective, but I do think that
major comes when they're talking about changing coaches. And I think that would be crazy.
If it doesn't work this year, though, I do think that you have to start looking at some of these other pieces outside of Josh Allen, outside of Steph Diggs, outside of some of the other cornerstone players. Because really, I mean,
but not coach. But
not coach. I'm okay with Sean McDermott. I've got no issue with them.
Think about if the Eagles would have gotten frustrated, or the Chiefs had gotten frustrated that Andy Reid couldn't. I mean, the Eagles did, and it cost them Andy Reid. What if the Chiefs would have made a change because Andy Reid couldn't get over that? No, you don't. Like, when you're reaching those points every year, that's not the time to change everything. That's still the time to try and tweak and make it happen. 869-1240. All right, we're going to bring in Kevin Jinks, Wichita Sports Commission. He's going to talk to us about the banquet they have coming up later this week. That's next on Sports Daily. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Sports Daily. It is KFH. Thanks for joining us there or on our video streams. Albrocht and Castor joined now by our buddy Kevin Jinks over at the Wichita Sports Commission. Kevin, what's up, man?
We are getting ready for our annual Greater Wichita Sports Banquet and Buster Posey Award. How are you guys today?
We're good. So, tell us about the banquet this year because, well, number one, can people still sign up to get there, or are we all filled up?
No, we actually have 2 tables left right now. And if we do, we fill those 2 tables, then we have a sellout. And so that's the first time in a while. So real quick, I'll give you some information. So the Sports Commission puts on the Greater Wichita Sports Banquet, which honors local high school, college, and professional athletes. That is one aspect of the banquet. And then another aspect of it, of course, is we are the home of the Buster Posey National Collegiate Catcher of the Year Award, and we'll have the 3 finalists coming in for that: Jack Payton from Louisville, Ryan Snell from Lamar University, and Kyle Teal from Virginia. Virginia was a College World Series team that went, unfortunately, 2-2 in Omaha, but certainly had a great season to make it up to Omaha. And so we have that award that goes out. Buster Posey will be here to present the award. And then our featured guest speaker for the night in our what we call a fireside chat or just a sit-down conversation with Mike Kennedy is K-State men's basketball coach Jerome Tang. So a really special evening honoring our local athletes that we've been doing for 25 years. Then certainly with the Buster Posey Award being a part of it, and with the accolades and the success that Coach Tang had at his first year at K-State, and a lot of expectations moving forward and everything, and just I think just a really interesting figure to have, and so we're very excited about it. But yes, we do have a few more tickets if people are interested in purchasing tickets, they can go to our website, wichitasports.com, and find the awards link or the banner, and they'll be able to buy tickets through our website.
Kevin, in all the years of the National Collegiate Catcher Award being given here in Wichita, there have been some big-time names that have ended up with, pretty long and successful big league careers. And so looking at the three finalists this year for that award, for the Buster Posey Award, what do we know about, I know you mentioned Virginia and the kid from there. What do we know about those three finalists?
Well, I think the guy who probably sticks out a little bit more than the others is Kyle Teal. Kyle is projected to be an 8th pick overall in the draft. He hit over 400 the entire season this year as a junior. He's a guy who's a lot like Buster Posey. Buster went to Florida State as a shortstop, and then they turned him into a catcher. And that's what Virginia did as well. He came in as a shortstop, kind of third base guy, and then his sophomore year. So he's only been catching, honestly, for the last 2 years. Now, he did get a lot of instruction from his dad. His dad was drafted by the Dodgers in '89 and has a facility or an academy in New Jersey, or had one. And so his dad was a catcher as well, so he probably got some tips there along the way. But a guy who's probably he's a projected one to go high. I really have enjoyed looking at Ryan Snell from Lamar, even though it's a small school and a small conference. He was the player of the year in the Southland Conference. And when you look at this past year as a junior, as a senior, he threw out 59% of base runners trying to steal on him. So from a defensive point of view, he's legit. And that's one of the things about the award is that we look at the whole body of work rather than just offensive numbers like we possibly could. So we look at the whole body of work of how well they do defensively, how they work with pitchers, and then just certainly how they play offense too.
So, Kevin, when we look at this banquet, it's the Tang thing that sticks out to me this year, because he has become and became one of the darlings nationally of the sport of college basketball. And then, his personality became contagious. What a perfect opportunity with so many young people that you guys will have in the room to hear what I imagine is going to be a pretty interesting conversation, don't you think? Like, that's the part of it for me that gets really interesting this year.
Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
Looking for an adventure? Find yours in a Toyota truck. Like a Tacoma, the ultimate off-road machine. With available crawl control, you'll tackle anything in your way. Or an electrified Tundra with more power than ever before and a spacious high-tech cabin that puts you in charge. Or go with the legendary 4Runner, always reliable and durable over the toughest terrain. No matter your adventure, Toyota has you covered. Visit buyatoyota.com for more, and let's go places.
Does an orthopedic condition or sports injury have you sidelined? Make your comeback with GW Hospital Sports Medicine. We offer services from neck to toe, including care for shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, and hands. Plus, we're the official healthcare partner of GW Athletics, the DC Furies, and the DC Revolution. Get back to doing the things you love. Learn more at gwhospital.com/sportsmed or call 888-4GW-DOCS. Physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.
Yeah, and, I can't say enough about Mike Kennedy. I mean, he's the ultimate professional. He does a great job of research, and I've already seen the discussion points from Mike, and I was like, oh, these are great. And as a former broadcaster, it's like, oh, he's right in line with kind of things people want to hear about and where the conversation goes. And I think, Coach Tang will have 20, 25 minutes we'll have with him and just get a deeper feel for his approach. We have a kind of a hype video that will air, and it's basically just snippets that he was mic'd up at a practice. And one of the great lines with it and he goes, and he's talking to his team, and he goes, if you guys want to win a Big 12 championship, you get a steal here, a bucket there, and a steal here. Or I'm sorry, I should say a stop here, a bucket down there, and a stop again here. And it's just a great line, and it applies to, in a very short manner, to just his approach of being very, very simple with coaching, but also getting kids to understand what he wants them to get done.
Well, every single nominee for all of these different categories in the awards, Kevin, are well-deserving and worthy nominees. But as I'm going through, I mean, there are some names that stick out as players on both the men's and the women's side that are basically superstars or superstars in the making. Avery Johnson, a nominee for the Barry Sanders High School Male Athlete of the Year award. You've got Sydney McKinney is the College Female Athlete of the Year nominee. Peyton Tolley on the male side for College Male Athlete of the Year. What does it mean to you? And of course, that's just, the tip of the iceberg of all the different nominees. What does it mean to you to have such a really deep talent pool in this area to be able to recognize and award each year?
I think this year's finalists, it was really challenging. We had for just the high school categories for male and female, we had over 50 nominees. And our committee, it was tough for them to break it down and find those three. I mean, there's some people that weren't finalists that have had great careers and great senior years, and we'll focus that. It is a senior that the Lynette Woodard and the Barry Sanders Awards go to. And, I think you're going to see some of these names. Certainly we look forward to following them through the next 4 years of when they compete in college. But I think a lot of them have the ability to go beyond that. And, Addison Brown, who was a McDonald's All-American in basketball, she's going to Iowa State. She's been up there this summer working out and things. It really is I always say it's a very special evening to be in that room because you have – the 17, 18-year-olds that are just, they're getting ready for high school. And guys, let's all admit, going to college as an athlete today is a lot different than when we were going to college. The training that they are able to experience and have is so much better and stronger than it has and will ever has been, honestly. And then you mentioned the college athletes as well. And then, we bring in the finalists for the Buster Posey Award. And then we have other awards as well. Dylan Schmidt, the head football coach at Andale, he will be honored. He's 73-6 or something like that in the last 6 years. And his record is phenomenal. 4 straight state championships. And so it's a room of a whole lot of sports success and accolades. And it's a very special evening. And we're fortunate enough to be able to put it on.
All right, Kevin, before we let you go, again, it's Thursday, and people can get a hold of one of those 2 remaining tables by going to wichitasports.com. Is that correct?
Yes. wichitasports.com. Go to the tab at the top that says Awards and Banquets, and you'll see the logo, and you'll be able to click that and follow your way to tickets, or they can just give us a call at 265-6236. We're happy to take care of them that way. But like I said, we have 2 tables left. We do have individual tickets on sale as well. If buying a table maybe a little too much, can't fill it, we certainly sell individual tickets. But we're going fast. We know that, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on with you guys and talk about it. Thank you.
All right, there's Kevin Jinks, Wichita Sports Commission President, CEO. We look forward to another successful banquet Thursday. We'll see you soon, Kevin.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
Tommy, you'll be there. I will not be there this year, but we will be there as a collective at KWCH. It's a fun event. It's your first time, you said?
Yeah, I've never gone before. We have one of our Wichita Thunder players, Braden Watts, is a finalist for the Professional Athlete of the Year. So because I mentioned at the top of the show, everybody on the staff is in Vegas except for me. I get to represent the team at the banquet, so I'm looking forward to it.
Have you already begun to receive updates on how much fun everybody's having while you're stuck here?
Yep, I've gotten pictures of slot machines and table games and buffets, and you name it. I'm getting it right now. And they all come back, I think, Thursday night. So I'm in it for a while here by myself. But you know what? Somebody's got to hold down the fort, I guess.
Are you secretly hoping that everybody's like hungover and suffering?
Well, that's really my only, the only ammunition I have is to tell all of them, they're like, oh, we're so tired. I'm like, hey, I feel great. I'm not hungover. I'm not tired. I'm good. I'm good to go. That's the only ammunition.
How long is the Vegas trip, by the way?
They
like
come back
Monday
on
through Thursday?
Yeah, it's a long one.
Oof. That's probably too long for a Vegas trip.
I agree.
At least you got that in your back pocket. All right, we'll
Give
come
me
back.
48 hours and then call it good from there.
That's the fatal flaw of everybody when they go to Vegas is staying that third day. All right, we'll come back. We'll wrap it up. Thanks to Kevin Jinks for hopping on real quick. That banquet on Thursday. We'll tell you what's on tap the rest of the day next on Sports Daily.
Does an orthopedic condition or sports injury have you sidelined? Make your comeback with GW Hospital Sports Medicine. We offer services from neck to toe, including care for shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, and hands. Plus, we're the official healthcare partner of GW Athletics, the DC Furies, and the DC Revolution. Get back to doing the things you love. Learn more at gwhospital.com/sportsmed or call 888-4GW-DOCS. Physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.